The ice storm sweeping across the United States is already claiming the life of 28 people, leaving hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses without power. In Brazil, so police thwarted an extremist attack that planned to blow up a fuel truck near the Federal District Airport. And in Russia, President Vladimir Putin stated that Ukraine and its Western allies reject dialogue with Moscow. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In the United States, a severe ice storm swept across the country on Christmas, killing some 28 people and leaving hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses without power. The extreme weather caused highway accidents and paralyzed the Buffalo International Airport in New York State, leaving a total of 1,416 domestic and international flights canceled on Sunday. The scale of the storm, which tracked from the Great Lakes near Canada to Rio Grande River at the Mexican border, was unprecedented and knocked out power to residents from Maine to Seattle. Many U.S. citizens were stranded in their own cars, as were emergency crews. Chilean authorities confirmed Sunday that the fire that broke out 3 days ago in the city of Viña del Mar is under control, though not completely extinguished. Minister of the Interior Carolina Toja said there is no direct threat to the residents in the affected area and its surroundings, which is why the alert was changed from red to yellow. The government official said that there are still hotspots and SWAT teams are still working in the sun. Government officials confirmed that on Sunday the balance of the blaze was still 2 dead, 67 injured and 267 houses damaged. The National Forestry Corporation, on the other hand, reported that the fire had devastated an area of 111 hectares. The blaze started in the hills of Viña del Mar and favored by strong gusts of wind spread through the province until it reached populated areas of mostly low-income residents. The civil police in Brazil arrested on Sunday a man who was planning to blow up a fuel truck near Brasília's international airport. Police sources identified the arrested man as Jorge Souza, a businessman who claimed to be a Bolsonarista. Souza is said to have frequented the camp in front of the army headquarters, where dozens of radical Bolsonaristas were asking the military to intervene to prevent President-elect Luis Inácio da Silva from coming to power. The police detailed that Souza confessed to have had the intention of generating chaos. The arrest comes a week before the inauguration on January 1st, when Brasilia will be armored to receive dozens of heads of states and a crowd that intends to celebrate the return of the leftist government to power.
He lives in Para and came precisely to participate in the demonstrations at the general headquarters, right? And that's what they call him. And he's part of this movement in support of the current president, right? To the current president, according to them. It is an ideological mission, but it got out of control. And the police authority, especially here in Brasilia, will take all necessary measures and will arrest anyone who attempts against the democratic rule of law, especially with threats and especially now with bombs. This is something that never existed in Brasilia.
In Brazil, Attorney General of Sao Paulo, Mario Luis Arrubos, filed a request to annul the pardon granted by outgoing President Jair Bolsonaro to law enforcement officers found guilty of the Carandiru prison massacre in 1992. On Saturday, Arrubos asked the Ministry of Justice authorities to declare the measure unconstitutional, as it favors the former officials responsible for one of Brazil's bloodiest episodes of law enforcement violence. In his official statement, the Attorney General emphasized that the presidential pardon violates both national and international laws and human rights agreements. The Carandiru massacre occurred in October 1992 when military police stormed the Carandiru penitentiary following a prison riot and killed 111 inmates. In El Salvador, hundreds of soldiers and police continue to close communities in the capital and other cities as part of the government's plan to fight gangs. President Nayib Bukele reported via Twitter that over 1,000 military and 130 police officers closed a community recognized as one of the areas with highest drug trafficking activity in the Salvadoran capital. According to the president, the community of Tutunixapa in San Salvador has been completely blocked off since last Saturday morning. This is done in order to capture the criminals that still remain in that community. The policy has been criticized by social movements, claiming that law enforcement officers frequently make arbitrary arrests of innocent citizens. The government of Peru announced reparations of solidarity support for the families of those who lost their lives during the protests after a turbulent week in which 28 demonstrators were killed as military and police repression violently escalated across the country. The Minister of Justice and Human Rights, José Tello, said that President Dina Boluarte and Prime Minister Luis Alberto Otarola commissioned the creation of a multi-sectoral commission to look into the issue of reparations or solidarity support. He specified the commission will be made up of delegates from different ministries, civil society, the National Human Rights Coordinator, and 2 representatives of the victims' families. On the other hand, in her Christmas message, Dina Boluarte stated that it is difficult for her to wish happy holidays due to the current situation the country is experiencing. She also indicated that she would have liked to start her transition government without these human losses, for which she sent her condolences to the relatives of the deceased. Let us take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced during a press conference the West's rejection of dialogue with Moscow. The Russian head of state said Sunday that Moscow is ready to negotiate with all the parties involved in the conflict and pointed out that the decision depends on the West and Kiev, as they are the ones who refuse to do so. President Putin also pointed out that his government is acting properly in the interest of national interests and the welfare of its citizens. The Russian president added that the West seeks to divide Russia and the Russian people. However, Putin said every Russian citizen is ready to sacrifice everything for the interests of the homeland.
I believe we are acting in the right direction. We're defending our national interests, the interests of our citizens, our people. I reiterate, we don't have any other choices but to protect our citizens. However, we are prepared to negotiate some acceptable outcomes with all the participants of this process, but it's their business. It is not us who refuse talks, it's them.
In Germany, recent polls show that 45% of respondents are against supplying Ukraine with Leopard 2 tanks, which are considered an icon of the country's military technology. According to a poll commissioned by Deutsche Presse-Agentur, Germany's largest news agency and one of the largest in the world, Germans are largely opposed to supplying Ukraine with such tanks. The other side is divided between 33% in favor and 22% do not speak out. This division is also reflected in the three-party coalition that governs the country, with the Social Democrats led by Chancellor Olaf Scholz denying the delivery of these tanks, but with the Greens in particular and the Liberals to a lesser extent, in favor of meeting President Zelensky's specific demand. In Russia, the armed forces announced the establishment of a layered defense system to protect the strategic Zaporizhia region. The deputy governor of that province reported on Sunday that Russian military engineers have built a line of defense to prevent peace disturbance. These measures fortify several areas which would allow a greater defensive capability in case of attacks from Ukraine. That territory was submitted to the Russian Federation on the basis of the results of a referendum held in late September, in which the yes vote for union obtained a solid majority. The Russian government signed a decree for the purchase and delivery of 25,000 tons of wheat to the people of Cuba as part of a donation of humanitarian aid to the largest of the Antilles. According to the resolution, Russian authorities allocated more than 800 million rubles to the Ministry of Emergency for the purchase and delivery of the grain to Cuba. The decree details that some 469 million rubles will be used only for the purchase of the grain, while more than 300 million rubles will be designated for the delivery of the shipment by sea with the help of the Foreign Ministry. The approved budget is part of the humanitarian aid that will be sent to the Caribbean nation between this year and 2023. Kurdish organizations took to the streets of Paris on Saturday to protest after 3 members of that community were killed by a racist gunman at the Kurdish Cultural Center. The demonstration broke out in the French capital, rejecting what the Kurdish community considered a terrorist attack. The police forces threw tear gas and sound bombs at the demonstrators. Local media reported 12 police officers were injured in the clashes. In Spain, at least 6 people lost their lives after a bus fell into a river in Galicia, located in the northwestern part of the country. According to local authorities, the accident occurred on Saturday, shortly before 9:30 p.m. local time, on a national road in the municipality of Cerdedo Cotobade, near the border with Portugal. The bus, which was connecting the city of Lugo with Vigo, fell 29 meters into the Leres River. The accident has left 6 deaths so far, while the bus driver and 1 other passenger have been rescued alive. The civil guard has confirmed that on Monday a new search will be carried out due to the possibility that there might be an 8th passenger still missing. In the United Kingdom, members of the Rail and Maritime Transport Workers Union officially went on strike in a dispute over wages, jobs, and working conditions. Trains stopped running at 3 p.m. local time on Christmas across the country, affecting the plans of millions of people trying to reach their destinations for the Christmas holidays. Network Rail offered the railroad union a 5% wage increase this year, but the union is demanding a 7% increase. The public transport stoppage in the country is expected to continue until Tuesday. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the South. The United Nations rejected the Afghan Taliban government's decree preventing women from working in non-governmental organizations and warns that this measure jeopardizes international aid to the country. A press release issued by the organization pointed out that any such order or decree violates the most fundamental rights of women and is contrary to humanitarian principles. According to the text, the UN will try to approach the Taliban leadership to learn in detail about the new decree, which comes along with the veto on women's university education, approved less than a week ago. The controversial order issued by the Taliban Finance Ministry calls on all NGOs to dismiss their female employees on the grounds that they are not complying with Islamic laws. Ethiopia's Health Minister Leah Tadesse said on Sunday Tigray is receiving essential health and living supplies aid as access has been gradually opening up since fighting between government and regional forces ceased early last month. During an exclusive interview with China's Central Television, the Ethiopian minister said that so far supplies worth nearly $4.5 million have been delivered to the region. Tadesse also said that the government has sent medical professionals to Tigray to help its 10 hospitals and 24 health centers resume operations. Ethiopia, Africa's second most populous nation, has seen a devastating conflict between government-allied troops and forces loyal to Tigray People's Liberation Front since November 2020, which left thousands dead and millions in urgent need of humanitarian assistance. A cessation of hostilities was signed on November 2nd.
Since this humanitarian access has been resumed, a total of worth 240,815,203 birr and 89 cents per worth of life-saving pharmaceutical supplies were delivered to the Tigray region. Out of this, of course, around 112 million are vaccines and related consumables. We expect to continue to do more because the need is, as you can see, huge. And based on our recent tentative plan, which will continue to be refined, the phase one of the next 6 months response is estimated to require around 7.8 billion birr. So the response, the resource mobilization and working with partners will continue.
Nigeria's central bank reversed the policy that drastically limited cash withdrawals in the African nation after public outcry. According to banking authorities, a new limit 5 times higher than before was established. In that sense, individual withdrawals were raised from $225 to about $1,125, while the limit for legal entities was raised from $1,100 to $11,000. The bank assured that this measure seeks to control excess cash and promote electronic payments through the national bank's digital currency, internet banking, or other alternative means. The Iraqi government presented a proposal to hold dialogues between Iran and Egypt in order to restore relations between the two countries. During an interview, Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian stated that the proposal was made by Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sulani, whom he met with in the framework of a regional conference held this week in Amman, the capital of Jordan. The Iranian Foreign Minister said that he welcomed the idea, adding that al-Sulani will take action in the coming weeks to facilitate such talks. Iran broke off relations with Egypt after 1979, with the rise of the Islamic Revolution and following the peace treaty between Egypt and the State of Israel. However, in recent years, the country has shown its willingness to improve their relations by resolving their differences on various issues. In Egypt, an archaeological mission discovered on Sunday a building from the Ptolemaic period, a Roman bath, and several objects during excavations at the Temple of Esna in Luxor. According to the authorities of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, in the works carried out in the back of the sanctuary, the experts found the remains of a hut that was an extension of the temple during ancient times. They also detected the remains of a circular building of red bricks and the foundations of another with adobe walls, as well as numerous ceramic vessels. The Temple of Esna was built during Roman times and was dedicated to the god Num, represented as a man with a goat's head. In the last 200 years, several researchers have brought to light various inscriptions engraved on the temple. South African authorities announced on Sunday that the death toll from Saturday's tanker explosion near Johannesburg has risen to 15. The accident occurred after an Infinity gas tanker carrying 60,000 liters of liquefied petroleum gas got stuck under a bridge in the residential area of Boksburg. Aside from the 15 casualties reported so far, at least 40 have been injured by the blast, of which 19 are in critical condition and other 15 are stable but seriously injured. According to local reports, several houses and vehicles have been damaged by the explosion, including the nearby Tambo Memorial Hospital, from which patients had to be evacuated after part of the roof collapsed. The government of China expressed its rejection of a new annual defense spending by the United States and its inclusion of Taiwan. This action was qualified by Beijing as a serious political provocation. The Foreign Ministry of China issued a communique in which it denounced the law as blatantly interfering in the internal affairs of the country. He also pointed out that the new U.S. defense spending sends a wrong message to the region's independence forces and seriously affects peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. In this regard, it stressed the need for the United States to stop trying to use Taiwan to contain China. The new military budget authorizes increased security cooperation with Taiwan, allocating $10 billion to assist and acquire arms for the island. We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.